Hello Saberites, before we get into the video I want to just run you through a quick PSA. When you get the hilt, I would like you to go through a check first. As with every saber, open up your box over a nice clean surface, pull out everything, don't start assembling anything just yet, and set everything to the side. Now make sure you do not thread on your Saber just yet, remove that, keep it to the side, out of the way, you're not going to touch that for the test. Once you get your hilts, please remove the threaded bushes up at the top, just like so. Nice and easy. Those two there, and then you've got a nice collar that should slip right off there. On your emitter, please remove the blade retention cover and remove your blade plug. Like so. Set those to the side, you don't need them for the test. So first thing you're going to do is grab your emitter without the attachments on and slide it over the QD body and make sure that that spring mechanism is springy and not too tough, and that once you're happy with how that's springing down, start trying to turn it and you should find it's nice and smooth, and then you'll find once you hit the 90-degree mark it will click into place. And then once you're happy with that, please remove the emitter. Do not tune this, though I do walk you through how to do it in the video. It is completely unnecessary. We have quality controlled all of the hilts before they have shipped, and we have checked the mechanism. If you encounter any issues with the mechanism as soon as you get it, upon receipt, please let us know and we can help resolve any issues. But as I said, they're all checked, so you shouldn't encounter any issues at all. If you do start making adjustments, be it on your own head, we do not think it's a good idea that anybody goes into trying to tune this if they do not know what they are doing. Last thing we want is anybody to start tuning this, mess up the mechanism, and it's got to come back to the UK to us to look at and resolve and find that it's one simple mistake that was made by yourselves. Then we've got to try and resolve it all together. Now, as I said, I'm going to repeat myself again. Do not tune this, though I do walk you through how to. It is not required. They have already been checked. Please follow those rules, and if there's any issues, please get in contact straight away. Make sure all of these parts are disassembled from the hilt when you try and check the mechanism. Thank you very much. Let's continue with the video. Enjoy. Hello Saberites, and welcome to the Loth and Found video walkthrough. Here we have the lovely box designed by Christian Cruz. Really does capture the credits of the Ahsoka series really nicely. He does an excellent job as always, thank you Christian. Right, so in the box, let's go through what you get. Some foam. So you've got your Saber, you've got your emitter, you have got your emitter decoration piece, you've got 2 Allen keys in a baggie, a small little PCB for the control box, and then you have got 2 panel accents to go on the outside, and then you have the main hilt wrapped in tissue paper. Right. Set that to the side, get rid of the box, clear some space. Alright, so we have QC'd these before any of them have been shipped. We've QC'd them all and double checked that the mechanism is functioning correctly. So you shouldn't encounter any problems, but my job here today is to walk you through how to clock it, how to tune it, putting anything you need to take a note of, putting all your panels on, and how you wire in your emitter PCB, because that may not be obvious to a lot of you. So, but it's actually very simple. So what we have here, we'll start at the pommel and we'll go work our way up. So at the pommel, this is entirely clockable. So what we have to do is grab our 2 Allen keys. I'm going to move all the things I don't need yet to the side, get them out of the way. 2 Allen keys, so you should have a 1.5mm and a 1.27mm Allen key. The only time you'll need the 1.27, which is this one, is for these grub screws on this sleeve here. Okay, so if you remove those slightly, you'll find that you'll be able to turn this ring here, and then you can clock it into your desired position, which should be in line, the 2 grub screws should be in line with the sides of the hilt. I'd say that's about right. And then just pinch them down. Don't have to go too nuts, because the concentricity of the part is pretty good to the sleeve inside. And there we go, can't turn it. And then another thing to clock, because this pommel threads in like so, obviously, you can actually clock this. So these 2 grub screws here and these 2 grub screws here, using your 1.5mm, if you remove them slightly, don't have to pull them out all the way, you'll find you'll be able to turn the entire unit to get the clocking you want. Obviously this comes undone because it's threaded, but I believe the accurate way to clock this is this orientation here with the D-ring on the other side. So I think that's right. And the great thing is, it doesn't matter yet, you can always come back and reset it. You'll have access to the grub screws on the side to clock this, providing you haven't put on your panels yet. But the grub screws also serve a second purpose, which we'll get to later. You've got some grub screws here and here. When you get yours, you might find they're fully inserted into the hilt, like so. But these are also to aid you in getting on your panel in the correct orientation and without any misalignment. So what you want to do is, when you get these, is unscrew them a little bit so they stick out of the diameter, and use those as a little aid to guide how you apply your panels with 3M tape onto the side of the body. You can super glue the panels down. I'd recommend using the 3M tape. Yours will come with a 3M tape panel set that you can peel and stick. Mine didn't, because this was one of the free prototypes, so it hasn't got an original set, though I do have a spare original set in my bag somewhere, so I do need to find that. When we come up to the control box, you'll notice that you've got a nice plunger system here. This is a double plunger system. You'll find it's quite difficult to use at the moment. That is why a PCB is included with your kit. So what we noticed from the show, very hard to see, it's only in a couple of frames, but there is a small little PCB with some traces in there that is used in the control box area. Now when you get yours, this might be a rough PCB, it's just been pushed out of the assembly tray, so it might not fit very well straight away. But all you have to do, and it will just be because of some flashing material from how the PCB is printed, is get a file and just wipe it very gently, like so. Do that side too. You don't have to push down very hard at all. You're not looking to wipe out any true amount of material. You just want to get rid of the flashings, take the corners down as well, and then with your 3M panel you'll stick that into place like so. Obviously don't do it straight away if you plan on getting this weathered. You leave all the panels off until the post weathering process is completed. Right, remove that, and now we come to our clocking mechanism and quick detach mechanism. So this is something very unique I came up with, and it allows buttonless quick detach method, and also one of the most secure methods you'll get in the quick detach market. Doesn't rely on precision threads which eventually bed in and wear out, because that is unreliable. and this has to be manufactured in a way that it's not the same every single hilt, because that is a very extensive process for the manufacturers to go through. So this is done with that in mind, and also with the ability to tune it in mind. So when you get your hilt, first thing you're going to do, I'd like you to do, is to remove your emitter top ring here that hides your blade retention screws. Now you might find this body here is a little bit loose, but what you're going to do first is remove your blade plug, and do note you have access to 2 blade retention grub screws. If you get yours and you find that the blade retention grub screws are on the other side and non-accessible, unscrew this main body here, and if you can't get a grip on it, what you do is you remove a grub screw if one is in the way, put your Allen key through like so, and then you turn it to release it. Okay, you have to be careful not to damage your threads though. You shouldn't have too many issues there, and if you find it's too loose, you can do the same to tighten it up and clamp it all down. So you'll have access to 2 blade retention grub screws, which is pretty neat. I'm going to leave this off for the moment and this off for the moment as well. I'm going to put those on at the end because this has to sit up against this once it's all assembled, and at the moment you don't know where that sits in here just yet until you have assembled the entire unit. So another thing we found, there seems to be some sites of some brass reflectance down at the bottom of the emitter, so we captured that with the brass ring down here, which is an interesting detail we don't really get to see too much of. It's also very well hidden if it's up in that angle there, but you can still see flashings of like gold against the inside of the Saber, so there's something down there. What we've got here, the Saber, what you do is you use gravity to help you, try not to fumble it, and whatever you do, don't cross your threads. These are nice fine threads. There we go. There we go. Alright. So make sure that's on nice and tight and not going to go anywhere. Do note the orientation of these 2 points here. There are 2 gaps here on either side of the circle. And then note how it's positioned to the grills on the back of the emitter shield. Should be like that, because in the show, when we see Ezra assemble the hilt, it goes back towards the control box, pushes down and twists, and it locks in. Now this is quite a smooth mechanism already. Now it should be smooth straight away because we have QC'd these before they were sent out. And then to undo it, just grab it, turn it, and it should click off. Now you get that nice click when you turn it to let you know it's locked into place, and that is pretty substantially good as is. But if you want to really lock this down to make sure there's no wobble in it, thread up this bit here, and that will pinch and lock down this entire unit, and it's not going to go anywhere. Alright. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the a way to adjust this if you want this looser or tighter. So first I'm going to, this is in a good position right now. It goes on nice and smooth, clicks into place, and I don't have to turn this too far to clamp down on the upper part of the emitter. So this is completely toolless. But if you want to set it, you have to use your Allen keys provided. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to loosen this off. So remove this, these nice giant threads here, then remove the silver part here, and you've also got this black ring here. And I'll walk you through what each of the grub screws do. And get in your space. Alright, make sure we got some focus. Bottom grub screw, which is mirrored onto the other side of the hilt as well. This is your PCB holder retention screw for those of you who are doing an FX install. So you don't have to worry about those just yet, just make sure you're not going to lose them. You see it's on both sides. The one above is your clocking mechanism nut. There's a nut inside here, a cylindrical nut that is pinched into position by these two grub screws here and here, so it's the same position, just mirrored on the other side. Above that, 90 degrees round, we have a grub screw that helps retain this part here, which is your QD body. Okay, and it's mirrored on the other side. And when I say retain, I actually mean just hold its clocking position. And then we have the same functioning grub screw up here, which is mirrored on the other side. That also helps retain the clocking for your QD body. So what you ideally want, if you want to replicate the position that you see in the show, is that this is got its little arms sticking out either side to the control box. I hope that makes sense. Up here on the QD body, you have a grub screw here and mirrored on the other side. This is just a retention for the pin here. The pin is a true press fit into the quick detach body, but the grub screw also helps make sure that any vibration through use or anything like that, it's not going to become one-sided. You know, that side's not going to disappear and you're going to have a super long side this side. Those two grub screws just keep that retained nicely. You don't need two, just need one, but two, I like symmetry. And then just above that you have a grub screw here, which is mirrored on the other side, which retains the emitter PCB holder up here. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you want to go through it again, please rewind the video and go through it. Okay, now how to loosen this off. So if I was saying this was super tight, and when I put this on I felt like it was grinding, which it isn't, but let's pretend it is. Right, what we would do is only unscrew this screw up here, which is one for your quick detach body. You have one around the side here, and then the mirrored positions all the way around. And you could rotate this clockwise to loosen it off, like unscrewing a thread, like so, because the nut is retained down there. Alright, so now if I were to then a little bit of pressure on this side, go to the mirrored side, do it up nice and tight, do this side here loosely, and do up the other side nice and tight, and then just go check the positions. And by doing the first side loose and the second side quite tight, the first side has got no pressure, so you're already pushing into the unit. The opposite side that you're doing, when you tighten it up and you do it nice and tight, you kind of bring a bit of balance to how you've positioned it. So you're not biasing it over one side. So that's nice. Now I'm going to find that this is now super loose, super easy, a little too easy. And what I would find as well is that then, when I have all of this assembled, I've got a grub screw loose. Felt like it. Aha. Just make sure your grub screws are below the threads. That's better. Do that. And if I put on this unit here, now what I find is, because I've loosened this, is that I have to turn this a lot more to get the clamping onto the emitter. This also means that without this will have a little bit of wobble. So the whole mechanism is tunable, so you can even tune it like within 10 microns if you know what you're doing and if you're well practiced at it. So let's undo that again, and now what we're going to do is tighten it back up, because I didn't like how many times I had to turn that. So what we're going to do is loosen off those same 4 grub screws that retain onto the quick detach body, like so, and then you can check it and see if this freely rotates, which it does, and I will turn it back the 180 degrees. so. And then I could retain it here, but what I'm also going to walk you through is how you tighten this up. So say this is back in the original position, which we're quite comfortable with. If I want to tighten it up so I don't have to thread that bush a little bit less to clamp it all down, you can also tune this by releasing the nut and clamping it at the right positions. So remember, this grub screw here, the upper one out of these two, retains onto the quick detach nut, and that is mirrored on the other side with the grub screw there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this right anti-clockwise, keeping track of where my position is, like so. So I'm just going to reduce it by a little bit, and then I'm going to clamp back down on that nut, and with a little bit of pressure, then you can go a bit harder on the mirrored position, and then do the same again on the front one. Then I'm going to turn this a little bit more if I can, if I haven't biased the diameter. And I think I was at the end of the threaded nut anyway, so I'm just going to loosen that off. Just by a smidge. Goes about there. Little pinch. Bit of a harder pinch. Turn this to get this exactly position you want, which is 180. Like so. And I can feel that threading down into the internal nut nicely as well. So I think it's at its limit. And then do the method of retaining the grub screws onto the quick detach body. Now, as I said, we've QC'd these, not QD'd. We have QC'd the QD mechanism before they left us. So you shouldn't have to do any of this, but if you wanted to have a play, it's yours. You can do what you like, as long as you do not strip threads and ruin your mechanism. That is down to you. We know they work, so there's no need to touch them, but if you play with them and ruin it, that's on your hands. So that's all nice and solid now, not going to go anywhere. Put this down. Put this down as well. Thread this all the way down. So make sure that's nice and tight. We'll have to come back to this when we want to retain the PCB holder, but at the moment just showing you how the quick detach mechanism works. And what I might find now is that this is too tight, but we'll see. It's going to be tighter than what I had it, but it might be too tight now. In fact, that functions quite nicely. An extra pinch, and that is absolutely wonderful. That is exactly spot on. So there we go, it paid off for me to tighten it just by that little small degree, and I have to turn this less, and that functions nicely, and that is solid as a rock, not going to go anywhere. And the good thing is, the tighter you get it without grinding, if you can literally get it to perfect position, you might not even have to thread this up to reduce all the wobble in here when there's no blade in it. But if you're going to stick a blade in it, definitely do that up, because you'll see with the length of the blade it adds leverage into the swing and force. You might get a little bit of wobble, so tighten that up to clamp on the whole mechanism, and it's completely solid. And as I say, completely toolless. Put this on. Wonderful. That is lovely. Nice and easy to use as well. So that's done. That's really, really good. Okay, what we're going to move into now is passing our wires through the emitter to then be able to put our internal PCB holder in there with all the wires running through, so then you can solder up your emitter PCB. Remove your pommel, and what I recommend, little plug for the Saber Armory, is at the Saber Armory, Cal sells these really, really high quality wires for lightsaber installations, I can't recommend them more. Before I worked for Cal, I was using my own wire that I sourced, and it was the same gauge but a lot thicker than this and didn't strip as well. These wires that he sells are amazing. Same gauge, strip really well, thinner, so these work really well. And if you've got the correct kind of strippers, wire strippers that is, then they function really well. Okay, so before you start, make sure you've got some good length of wire. If you've got anything shorter than the length, or just over the length of the hilt without the pommel on, you're going to struggle. So make sure you've got a nice big length. And what you're going to do is pass. Well, I'll see if I can show you that. This is hard to see. You can just about see it. Internally, because you've got the pin running through and grub screws either side, you've got effectively 4 quadrants to run your wires through. So I'm going to run my positive wire through one quadrant. I'm going to run my ground wire, my negative wire, sorry, through another quadrant, like so, and keep on running it through until it sticks out the end, and make sure you've got that pommel off. There we go. And then I'm going to run a nice thin data line through another quadrant, like so. Until it sticks out the other end, which it does. Wonderful. Now for this part, you also need your PCB holder internally, the internal PCB holder, words, and your thin neck PCB pin side as well. And what you're going to do is put your PCB holder over the wires with the correct orientation of how it's going to have to be wired up, like so. You don't have to worry about that now. And then you're going to solder, you're going to strip these, tin these, and solder them to this PCB right here. I'll cut right here, and then I'll come back after I've soldered this together. Alright, so I have now soldered my thin neck PCB to my wires and fitted it into the PCB holder. And before you pull this through or do anything else, remove these units here so you have access to remove the very bottom grub screws of all of this lot up here. So this grub screw here, remove it, set it aside nice and safe, and do the same for the mirrored position, as these are the retention grub screws for the PCB holder. Before I go any further, I've also installed my chassis. It's installed with a Profi, 2 switches, removable battery, kill switch, 28mm speaker, 2 crystals, and the blade side of the thin neck PCB up here as well. So you can use this to also help guide your PCB holder down the hilt if you need to as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull these through very carefully, and if you find at any point, as to try and keep all the wires nice and even, you can use the holes through here where you've removed the grub screws to also see right through the hilt and see if your PCB falls into position nicely as well. And if you struggle, you can use your chassis to help guide the PCB holder up the center as well, to help keep it flat. Like so. And what you can do is you can also do it with the pommel. To help keep it in the right position for you whilst you do up your retention grub screws for the PCB holder. I knew I picked up the wrong Allen key. thread it down and just pinch. You're only pinching into print, not aluminium or steel, so don't go super hard. And do the same for the other side without losing your grub screw. Like so. Cool. Now while we're messing with grub screws and before we wire up the emitter PCB, I am going to show you how to put your PCBs on in just a moment. I'm going to take a short break. It's getting very hot in here. I need to go grab a drink. Be right back. Okay, I have refreshed myself and I have peeled the stickers off the 3M sticker sheets. I have applied them to the back of my panels and I'm just about to peel the last one off. Like so. Okay, right. We'll go down and then up. So you've got these two grub screws down here and you've got a grub screw up here, which you might find is fully inserted on your hilt. What you want to do is just retract it so it sticks out just a little bit. And as you can see, there are positions on the back of these panels for alignment of those grub screws as well. It will help you just to back that grub screw out a little bit to help with your alignment. So all I'm going to do is, I kind of have to do this blind. Stick it in. I found that pretty well first time, and there we go, that is on there nicely. We'll do the same for the other side. I've already pulled that one out a little bit. Use the bottom ones for a visual, and then you can feel it when it hits the right position and you can push it down nice and firm, and those are on there nicely. Just making sure we are recording. For the PCB that fits in the control box, you've already filed down the edges a little bit to make sure it fits in there nicely and doesn't interact with the sides too much. Place it in, push it down. Now I've got my chassis in there at the moment and I'm immediately getting really nice tactile feedback from both switches. Lovely. And then the final panel, to go on your emitter. You've got the grub screws here, they should stick out slightly and you can use them as guidance as well. And the 3M tape provided is really good stuff, really solid and very hard to unpeel. Easier than super glue to undo, but it's pretty robust, and that is on there nicely as well. So the next stage is to then trim your wires down to solder them, tin them, solder them to your PCB, and then insert that into the PCB holder. Do note that you might require just a little dab of glue on the inside to retain your PCB, your emitter PCB. Okay, it's not a press fit, it's a machined finish, so there's no rough surface. You just want to put a dab of glue there, have that already soldered on, push it down and hold it for a couple minutes to make sure it's nice and secure, and then gently lift your finger off and double check that it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, I'm going to do that now, and we'll come back and hopefully we'll have the wiring all sorted for the internal of this hilt. Be right back. And we're back. I've been holding down this PCB now for a few minutes whilst the glue has been setting, and I think we're about ready to take it off. I'm getting no movement out of it, which is jolly good. It's sitting in there rather nicely. Hopefully you can see that. Very good. Now we'll test it. So we'll grab a battery, put it in.
Force my ally. That's all I need.
There we go. We'll put this into the hilt, making sure that the grooves around the switches line up with the screws on the control box. Should slide in nicely. And then we'll tighten up the pommel. and we'll hit a button. I've forgotten which way I've configured this, but let's go back one then. Or not. Okay, that doesn't matter. That works nicely. Excellent. Okay, that's the one. It's nice and loud. And that's working really nicely. Okay. Right, so now let's get the quick detach emitter on there. I did a twisting mission then, and that is lighting up nicely, no problem at all. So we'll get the blade plug back down there, tighten up our retention grub screws, just like so, and then we'll get the cover back on at the top. That's really nice. And that twist mechanism is working really nicely. So if you ever find, one tip for you, if you ever find you need to make adjustments, now that you've soldered in your PCB to your emitter, you can still make adjustments. It's not a problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my chassis just to be safe and stick it to the side, out of the way. So if you ever wanted to make adjustments, the only thing you would have to do if you move the upper part of the quick detach body with that grub screw there, and the ones on the sides as well, and the mirrored positions, if you remove those, make sure you undo the PCB holder retention screw as well, and that will be able to turn with the wires inside and not pull on them. Okay, so nice and easy. I'll just go over that again. That one. If you wanted to make any adjustments now that you've installed this and wanted to tighten this up or loosen it off, if you're going to make adjustments with the quick detach body at any time, which is that screw there, that screw there, that screw there, and their mirror positions, make sure you undo the very bottom screw as well, which is your PCB retention holder, and then that will go and move with your emitter and not pull on any wires. It's nice and easy. And if for any reason you find your mechanism's getting stiff and you want to add some lubrication, don't add grease, don't add any silicone lube or anything like that. This stuff is great because this sliding diameter here is a very well toleranced diameter. What you want to use is this stuff here that's meant for your locks on your doors. If you ever find your key is sticking in your lock, this stuff is really great. You put a bit on your key, put a bit in your lock, and you just spray it in there by giving the bottle a squeeze, and then you'll find it loosens up, feels a lot easier. The same thing for this as well. If you want to add any lubrication, get some graphite powder lubrication and just put a bit down the springy part. Okay, not much. When you have to be careful because when you squeeze this, a whole load of powder comes out. But you don't have to put a lot in there, and you'll find that it eases up a little bit easier. But yes, so let's reassemble. That's a nice thread right there, really nice. Factory did a really good job right there, like so. And we'll reassemble this. The most stable quick detach emitter mechanism, without any tools, without any button presses, no button presses required. This is the most efficient method of doing it, and We do have a design for the Kanan. If you want the Kanan hilt, I want to make it soon as well. It won't be exactly like this. It'll be done so you can't see the mechanism as such. So it will look a lot like it is in the show. We already have a design ready for it. So if you want the Kanan, let Cal know. Let Cal know you want the Kanan. I want the Kanan. It's a nice accurate Kanan as well that uses the quick detach emitter mechanism, and we can jump on that as well. Right, I think I've covered everything. I hope you liked the video. I hope everything I said makes sense. I hope you enjoy your Loth and Found hilt, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.